Greetings, fellow Pagan Pals. It's Bella Rosa here for another episode of My Pagan Pal Crafts and such. And the season of autumn is finally upon us. Thank the gods. I'm talking about the leaves are falling, Renaissance festivals, hay riding, apple picking, pumpkin spiced everything. I just love this season. And what better way to invite the smell of fall into your home than with some Mabon homemade potpourri? Here it is, so check it out. Ingredients for this project are listed below. I used a variety of different aromatic herbs and spices, and in my research I found that basically anything goes. Dried herbs, flowers, and barks are typically used alongside with essential oils. I also discovered that potpourri means putrid or rotten pot and was used to describe a kind of stew. Yay, historical facts. So I'm also including fresh and not so fresh fruits for my Mabon potpourri. I cleared my workspace and used a serrated knife to cut my tangerines and apples to about 1/4 inch thick, but you can get away with thinner slices. In a separate bowl, I squeezed half a lemon, and once I cored my apples, I coated each side of the slices with the lemon to keep them from browning. I took this extra step because my fruits are drying out in a dehydrator for 6 hours, so they'll brown without a little lemon love. But if you're using an oven, set the temp to the lowest setting, skip the lemon, and bake for approximately 2 to 3 hours, or until they're dried. Be careful not to burn them. I set my slices out on a dehydrator tray, leaving some space in between the slices so the air can get to them. I popped them into the dehydrator and cranked up the heat to a whopping 155 degrees. I repurposed an old candle holder that I put into the freezer for a couple of hours so that it'd be easier for me to remove the wax using a butter knife. I placed the candle wax into a Ziploc bag to melt down at a later date. Once I cleaned up the jar, I set it aside. Then 6 hours later, my slices were finally ready. They shrunk down a lot, aren't sticky, and are fully dried inside and out. In a small bowl, I prepared my loose powders by measuring 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. I mixed them together and then transferred the mixture to a larger bowl so I could reuse this smaller bowl for my wet ingredients. I took 1 spoonful of vanilla extract and 15 drops each of clove, orange, and cinnamon oil. I stirred those up a bit before adding them to my dry mixture and decided to add 1 teaspoon more of cinnamon and nutmeg powder. I mixed them up until it resembled coffee grounds. This mixture is to my liking, so use your nose for best results. Right off the bat, I saw that there was too much fruit for 1 container, so I wound up using 3. Also, none of the fruit smelled like fruit, so I just used hibiscus flowers to add that sour apple note back into the mix, and then Vitex berries have a really nice peppery smell that I wanted to use as well. This first container had everything in it: the dried herbs, the dried whole spices, the fruits, and the mixture I made. It came out really pretty looking. I was so surprised, but not done yet. I decided I wanted to experiment with the other jars, so for the second container, I didn't use any mixture. There's just no baking soda, no powdered spices. I only made a layer of loose herbs, mixed the vanilla extract and the essential oils together in the small container before I poured it over the herbs, and then I layered the fruits and whole spices on top of it. Breaking some of the cinnamon sticks and apple pieces adds a little more visual interest, not that you need it. For the last jar, I left out the Vitex berries and the hibiscus flowers. I just used the fruits and whole spices and then poured the vanilla extract and the essential oils straight into the jar. This was the easiest one to assemble by far, but in the end, my favorite one turned out to be the very first one I assembled. The smells are stronger and richer, deeper, and long-lasting. Make sure you leave them to sit overnight, covered before using. Shake them up a bit before uncovering, and if the scent starts to fade a bit, just add more essential oils. Have fun making your own potpourri, and happy Mabon! If you like what you saw here today and you want to be kept up to date on the latest episodes, and subscribe now, become a Pagan Pal. Like this video, and I'll see you next time for another episode of My Pagan Pal Crafts and such. Bye!